Hello and welcome to Story Starters, a series of short creative writing videos for children. My name's Sue Palmer and I write fiction for children, and if you've read any of my stories you'll know that my latest project is the May's Moon trilogy, which tells the story of 13-year-old Michael May's dream of becoming the first child astronaut. When I'm not here writing, I visit schools to run space and creative writing workshops. And in these Story Starters videos, I'd like to share with you some of my writing tips, some of the methods I use for creating stories, and share with you the things I've learnt in my writing. So I'm going to show you how I develop my character, the setting in which my story takes place, the plot for my story, and the first few lines of my writing. So if you're a budding writer, or if you've got a project for school and you're after some inspiration, or if you just want to do this for fun, why not join me in the Story Starters videos? So today I'm going to be showing you the importance of developing your story setting to both excite your reader and to showcase the character you've chosen. Now all you're going to need for this are some pens, paper, maybe some colouring pencils and your imagination. So what do we mean by setting? Well, it's quite simple. It's the time and the place of your story. It's the when and the where your story takes place. So this can be something that is real life, real time, or fantastical, futuristic, past. It's up to you. But how you develop your setting is crucial to your characters. You can put obstacles in their way through your setting. You can make life easier or more difficult according to the setting that you choose. So just take a couple of minutes to think about your favourite stories and think about when they take place. Do you like stories set in the past, the present, or the future? And where those stories take place and the worlds created by those writers. What appeals to you and what would you like to see in the stories you're writing? So for me, one of the stories that had the greatest impact in terms of the setting and the backdrop was Philip Pullman's Northern Lights and the travels of Lyra. So for me, that world was very emotive and I can still picture it now. Let's now come up with your setting. If you're looking for ideas, they are literally everywhere. Look around you at some familiar settings, for example schools, a library, a garden, a hospital. Maybe think about places that you've been that you've loved, on holiday or visiting other people. How about some of your drawings? For those that are good at drawing, look back at some of your pictures. Could one of those become your setting? Or maybe look at old photographs of the past and some of your ancestors or relatives. Is there something there that sparks your interest? So for me, in May's Moon, my setting came first, before my character and before the story. And my inspiration for May's Moon came from a visit to the Science Museum in London. And it was there at the Exploration Space display that I started to think. I was there with a group of Year 3 children, and as we moved around the room looking at spacesuits and replicas of spacecraft, I started to think, what if a child could go to space? What if there was a possibility? And looking around that room and all of the amazing things to do with space gave me my setting. So for you, have a think about where you can get your inspiration. Have a think about the time in which you want to set your story, and start researching and pulling together some information. Another story I'm working on at the moment is set in the recent past and in Cornwall. So Cornwall is somewhere I went a lot as a child and has great memories for me. Playing on beaches, looking at caves, collecting shells. It seemed a perfect backdrop or setting for a story. So think about where you'd like to set your story and in what period. If you've followed me in the developing your character session on Story Starters and given your character a goal, you might already have an idea of a setting that will challenge your character or help them or hinder them. If you're after a bit of inspiration, here are a few images that might give you that. Once you have a picture or an image or a drawing of your setting, and you're clear about where and when your story is going to take place, the next step is to fill out the detail of your setting. So I use something called a setting sheet, which is one bit of paper with a number of questions I ask myself about my setting. And here is where I put the most important details and information about my world. It's just for me, it's to help me with planning my story, it's to help me work out what to do with my character. So the blank version looks like this, and if you want your own copy you can download it at www.sypalmer.com. Now I take this blank version at the start of every story and I fill it out as comprehensively as I can. So for May's Moon, I wanted a story that was fiction but had a lot of space fact. So my setting sheet for May's Moon was pages and pages long. I started with one page and put down some basic details and then expanded each of those sections. So I had lots of facts and figures about space launches, what it's like to live in microgravity and things like that, to make it as realistic as possible. So think about your setting, think about the information you need, and fill out this form in as much detail as possible. When you're filling out your setting sheet, give as much information about what your setting looks like. And here we're after powerful, creative language. Use your imagination and give us some really great wow words. We also want to know what your setting smells like. Can you smell salty air, or is it a decaying forest smell? And what can you hear when your character is in this setting? What's unusual? And tell us, work out why your character is in this setting. So your setting influences your character greatly. Just imagine if you chose an alien as your character and the story was set in space. You can imagine how your character might behave. But imagine an alien in a supermarket and the story takes on a totally different flavour. So by now you have a picture or an image or a drawing of your setting, and you have a completed setting sheet with as much detail about your new world as possible. If you've already got your character and developed your character in the last Story Starters session, then like me, you probably are itching to get going on your story. So the next Story Starters session will be looking at your plot. If you have your character, you have your setting, what is the story? How is your character going to act and behave in your setting to create an exciting story for your readers? If you'd like downloads of the setting sheet or the character profile sheet from the last session, then you can get those on my website at www.sypalmer.com. Have a play with your setting, come up with something that you think is fantastic, and then we'll move on to the next session, which is creating your plot. So thank you for joining me. Happy writing and setting creation, and I'll see you soon. Bye.